Hello everyone, this is POW coming at you with another update. In this update, we're going to be talking about an Arctic blast that will impact portions of the east and southeast by the end of March. So before I do get started, if you do like weather related content, please subscribe to my channel as I will upload daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. And I do ask you to share this video with your friends and family on social media. All right, so let's get started. First of all, let's take a look at the overall teleconnections as of March 21st. And we're going to see how all this is going to play out. You can take a look at the NAO, which is the North Atlantic Oscillation. That has taken a positive turn, and that's lifting a lot of the warmer air that's going to be entering portions of at least the south and as well as the east of the United States over the next week. But you can definitely see the trend is going back down south again towards the neutral zone by the time we get into the end of March by April the 1st. And the AO, which is the Arctic Oscillation as well, has also trended well positive, but it's also trending into more of a negative to neutral phase by the time we get into the end of March and the 1st of April. And that'll bring some much colder air entering the picture of the United States. So let's take a look at the Eastern Pacific Oscillation. So here's your EPO. It's been predominantly positive. That's why we're going to see some of the well above average temperatures coming into the southeast as well as the east for much of next week. But we do see a noticeable trend. It takes a noticeable dip by the time we get into that March 29th time frame. And that's going to bring a quick shot of some pretty cold air into portions of the east as well as the southeast by the time we get into that March 29th, March 30th time frame. But it doesn't last long. It quickly retreats back up to more of the neutral zone. So it's a quick shot that's going to be coming to the east and portions of the southeast by the time we're talking around the 29th, 30th, say possibly 31st time frame. And here's your PNA, which is your Pacific North Atlantic, Pacific North American. It's been negative, and that's bringing the trough out west, and that's bringing the much colder temperatures out west that you're going to be actually seeing for much of this week coming up. But again, you can see the noticeable trending as we get towards the end of the month. It's trending a little bit more towards the neutral phase for a little bit, and that'll bring some a little bit warmer conditions by the time the 29th comes around and place more of the trough into the eastern part and southeastern part of the U.S. So let's take a look at also the Mann-Julie Oscillation. Here's the MJO, which I follow as well. And you can definitely see right now, it's actually been in predominantly colder phases. But when you don't have the teleconnections to kind of line up with it, with the positive AO and the positive NAO, that brings the warmer conditions. So a lot of times you got to have all these teleconnections kind of aligning together and kind of sync, but it's definitely in some of the colder phases. So that's why when we do see more of the NAO drop and the AO drop to a little bit more, at least a neutral, if not negative phase, that allows some of the colder air. So right now, the only colder source in town for the next week is, because of the PNA, is negative, is much of the West Coast. But that's actually going to change for a little bit next week as that quick shot of colder air. And it's quick. So you can definitely see this is traversing fairly quick between phase 3, phase 4, and it'll eventually get into phase 5 by the time we get into the first week of April. So let's look at the overall watches and warnings right now. And yeah, we've got yet another system coming in, and we already have winter storm warnings, portions of the Rockies, and even winter weather advisories, even for Denver again. So where they saw that snow last week, and of course the big event the week prior, they're going to be packing more snow on top of them today. So that's going to be, again, bringing more snow for Denver. And now let's take a look at the overall anomalies. Let's take a look at the overall. This is the 850 millibar. This is about 3,200, 5,000 feet up. There's a lot of colder air underneath that. And you can see predominantly out west into the northwest by Monday into Tuesday, the 23rd. That trough is digging well west, and that's bringing the much colder temperatures out in the Pacific North areas, and that'll bring actually some colder temperatures again, even in Amarillo. So we're almost seeing kind of the same path of what happened last week is going to be happening coming up this week. So because we have another trough that's going to be digging into portions of the Texas Panhandle with some very cold air again, and there will be some moisture around. You can see out ahead of it, you're still on the backside of that same system, bringing those cooler temperatures even for the southeast and getting into Florida. So they've been experiencing some very nice weather as it rebounds into the northeast with a warm up so far this week. But underneath that, yeah, by Tuesday, we're talking more snow again for Amarillo, Texas. Yeah, I mean, where they picked up, 2 to 5 inches last week, and you can definitely see, where they've been this year. I mean, they only average 15 inches of snow, and they picked up 33 inches already. So it's been well above average, even in the Texas Panhandle. It's been above average in New York, 14 inches above average, 15 inches above average, but well, the north, places like Bismarck, North Dakota, where they average 43 inches of snow, they've only seen 13 inches. So they've almost more, if not doubled the amount in Amarillo, believe it or not, as they normally would get in Bismarck, North Dakota. So it's definitely been a unique year, to say the least. But by the time we get into Wednesday, going into Thursday, that same low really starts to dig. That trough really starts to dig. And look how far south it is. I mean, that is some very cold air underneath that. And so we're talking places into Albuquerque, places into Santa Fe. I mean, we're talking snow for them and some very cold temperatures underneath that. And there's a lot of moving parts in March. The weather changes a lot. So you can definitely see out ahead of it as we go into Wednesday and Thursday, March 25th. There's your warmer temperatures in Texas for much of the southeast and much of the northeast. That unfortunately was going to be setting the stage for another severe weather outbreak, possibly in a lot of the same areas that saw them last week, because the same system is kind of taking a lot of the same path it did last week. So yeah, could be talking by Thursday another severe weather outbreak for portions of the southeast, and that will just extend into Friday for portions of probably off the Carolina coast, getting into the East Coast again, kind of like what they were seeing last week. So as we go into the day on that Thursday, look what happens underneath at the surface. Yeah, we're talking 22 degrees in Albuquerque in New Mexico. That is some cold. That is some cold stuff for all the way that far south for this time of year. Santa Fe, 16 degrees as you wake up for Thursday with snow on the ground. Thursday morning, March 25th. So yeah, that's definitely some colder air. That's what happens when the PNA is negative, and those trough really dig in, and plus the snowpack underneath it. So that adds on to the temperature dive. So yeah, that's going to be some very cold stuff, coming for guys on Thursday. But as we move through and extend it into next Sunday, we watch to the north, and here's the transition. It's going to be a quick transition. We're watching this developing trough. This is the same time frame where the EPO is going negative. So it's going to be a quick shot of some colder air going to be entering the picture in the northern and central U.S. That's going to be diving down. See, out ahead of it stays warm predominantly most of the week, and for the southeast as well as the northeast for the next 7 days. It's a fairly bigger warm up on the way as this makes this transition. But that quick shot of colder air comes in by the time the 28th comes around, and by the time we get into the 29th on Monday, yeah, we're talking some pretty cold temperatures going to be entering the picture into portions of the Ohio Valley, getting into the Mid-Atlantic, and especially the Southeast. So, I mean, these are places that you probably already planted your plants and everything. So you're probably going to have to be covering those plants, as definitely some frost are going to be looking at entering that time frame by the time we get into, say, the 29th time frame, as well as the 30th. So if we check out what's happening at the surface, here's your temperature anomalies. I mean, this is, you can definitely see we got a quick shot, so it rebounds quick. So we stay cold predominantly most of the week off the west. But by the time we get into next week, by the time the 29th rolls around, when that PNA goes a little bit more neutral, that'll bring those well above average anomalies back into the picture of the West Coast with those 10 to 15 degrees above average temperatures. And that's just going to flip by the time we get into the 29th with that developing trough, the dip in the EPO. That's going to bring your colder anomalies into the east, into the southeast with those 10, 15, and 20 degree below average temperatures, all the way digging down into the southeast and get it off the Carolinas and parts of Georgia, and that'll extend into portions of Florida as well. So if we take a look at some of the temperatures by then, and yeah, we could be having to cover the plants in much of the southeast as we're looking at possibly another frost that's going to be on the way by the time we get into March the 29th, because you can definitely see a lot of the 30s and middle 30s are going to be digging down all the way down for the deep south into Mississippi and Alabama and getting into Georgia, getting into parts of the Carolinas and even Arkansas. Possibly another freeze in parts, and especially Missouri. And as we get into Tennessee and Kentucky and portions of Virginia and West Virginia, and of course all up here in the Ohio Valley, Virginia, getting into some of the Virginia, Baltimore. So yeah, some of these areas will still see some frost. But those colder temperatures just dig a little bit further south into the southeast by the time the 30th comes around. And that's some chilly air. So we're talking middle 30s, if not some freezing in parts by then into Georgia, into the Carolinas. So yeah, definitely, it's a quick shot of some Arctic air that's going to be making a transition. So that was going to kind of give you plenty of heads up. So, you know, we're not done with some of the frost that's going to be happening into the southeast. So you may need to kind of take care of your plants those two nights. We're talking, say, the 29th and 30th time frame, and that may even extend to the 31st. But yeah, it definitely looks like a fairly quick, significant shot. Some colder air coming into all the way portions of the southeast. So I definitely wanted to give you a heads up on that. So I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video. Definitely leave your comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update where I protect you before and after the storm.